Many people think that a strong relationship means not fighting, and research shows healthy couples disagree. The difference isn't whether conflicts exist, it's how partners stay connected during it. And we've talked about also how we repair when we've had a conflict that maybe has gone a little too far. A strong relationship can tolerate the tension without threatening the bond. So, can you disagree without seeing your partner as the enemy? Gottman calls this maintaining a positive perspective. A positive perspective about your partner means that you give them the benefit of the doubt. You generally think that your partner is for you, not against you. So the issue is the problem, not your partner. And even when you're frustrated, you still believe that your partner is generally trying their best in this situation. You don't immediately assume the bad intention. Okay, so that example kind of in your head is like, I don't disagree, I don't agree with what you're doing, but I know that you're not trying to hurt me in this. Like I just mentioned, repair actually works. So one of the strongest predictors of relationship success is successful repair. So when things go wrong, the fix works. These are generally small efforts to reconnect during conflict. We often focus on the what do we do after conflict, like this big fight happened and how do we say we're sorry. But there are lots of shifts that can happen during conflict. I like to call them course corrections. How can we course correct to keep the conflict from getting to a point where it starts to feel like we need a big repair? So these small course corrections in where we're trying to reconnect with our partner during the conflict. Humor is great for this. Sometimes touch or asking, can we start over? Or I can see your point, and maybe asking for more clarification or asking for the do-over. Strong couples don't avoid conflict, but they do interrupt escalation. So when it's getting too big, when it's getting too much, we're going to interrupt that. So remember, it's not about the absence of mistakes, it's about those little course corrections. Another factor is that you stay curious when you don't understand your partner. So you might ask questions instead of building your case. So if you're really stuck in your spot and you're really arguing, you're not staying curious, you're not trying to understand. Curiosity actually helps keep the nervous system more regulated. And interpersonal neurobiology teaches that understanding creates integration, both within the relationship as well as within your own body. So you don't have to agree to understand. This could be as simple as asking your partner, help me understand your point of view. Tell me about how you got there. What am I missing here? And that can be ways to increase the conversation, to increase your curiosity, as well as to help regulate within the system and your system. If you feel safe being honest, then there's a good sign that your relationship is strong. When you feel that you can express discomfort or disappointment or frustration without fearing that the relationship will fall apart, it's a pretty good indicator that you're feeling like you're in a strong relationship and that your relationship is strong. Because in this case, your disagreements don't automatically become threats to connection. They could just be misunderstandings. They could be differences in philosophy, but they don't threaten the connection that you have with your partner. And this type of emotional safety allows for authenticity. It allows for you to show up as you, knowing that that is accepted. That is not something that's going to threaten your connection to your partner. So healthy relationships make room for different thoughts, feelings, and experiences. There isn't just one way. Taking a break, if you feel that you can take a break without threatening that connection, that is a sign of a strong relationship. The Gottmans show research about flooding nervous systems and how if you stay in the conflict, it's not going to resolve. Your flooded system isn't going to problem solve well, isn't going to be curious, isn't going to listen well. So strong couples know when to pause. They know when to say, hey, I'm flooded or you're flooded. Let's take a break and come back to this. And also the pause is an avoidance. There's a plan to return. When I work with couples, we talk about the 20 minutes take 20 minutes, and then you come back. And when we look at our nervous systems, the neurobiology of this supports the idea that regulation of your system comes before resolution of the problem. We need to come from a regulated place in order to be able to use the smarty smart part of our brains to solve problems. So if you need to say, hey, I'm just feeling overwhelmed right now. Can we come back to this in insert time here? Could be 20 minutes, could be an hour, could be after dinner, right? Depending on what your schedule's going. But you want to make sure that you select a time that you can come back. Once the conflict is over, or maybe even during conflict, you still turn towards each other. So this is a sign of a really good, strong relationship, is that one disagreement doesn't define your relationship. You can still share jokes. You can still check in. You can still offer support. These are these frequent bids for connection. I like to think of them sometimes as a tennis match, right? You're just bidding and your partner is bidding back and you're going back and forth. And that friendship remains intact underneath this conflict. And that is a sign of a strong relationship. And another sign of a strong relationship is that you can hold two truths at the same time. This is huge. This is actually one of the stickier places for many couples, is one or both partners feel that they hold the truth. And holding two truths is really important to relationships because you are two individuals having really potentially two different experiences. You are not having the same experience in the same situation. So your experience is real. Your partner's experience is real, and they both can exist simultaneously. What we sometimes start to argue about are what we consider facts, and some facts actually are still objective. So what we are looking for within the context of relationship is that you can hold your partner's truth as true at the same time as your truth. So this is a core concept in healthy relationships, as well as interpersonal neurobiology and general mind health. This idea that I can see why you feel hurt, and I can see how I reacted the way I did, right? There's two things that are happening there. Another component for strong relationships is that conflict will lead to greater connection and understanding over time. So strong couples use disagreements as informations. This is kind of like a crazy love map, right? If you disagree with each other, it's almost like an updated love map. Oh, this is something that my partner believes, feels strongly about, prefers, whatever. So instead of asking who wins, because really a winner means there's a loser, and in relationship with love, do we really need a loser? Do we want our partner to be the loser? So instead, maybe ask, what are we learning about each other right now? Not in a sarcastic way, but what am I really learning to understand that might be different about you than I thought? That could be helpful in maintaining connection. And so in this way, the conflict itself becomes a pathway to deeper knowledge about your partner. I hate taking out the garbage. Another sign of a healthy relationship is that you repair more than you criticize. So we've talked about criticism. Criticism is not particularly helpful in relationships. But even if we just look at kind of negative interactions versus positive interactions, just like a bank account, we want more positive interactions than we want negative interactions. Negative interactions pull out of that kind of emotional bank account. So there are studies done about this. General consensus is 5 deposits to 1 withdrawal, 5 positive interactions to 1 negative interaction. During times of conflict, you want that to go up. You actually want to try and offer more connection, more positive in the experience of a conflict. Okay, I know that can sound a little mind-boggling, but the more we can make repairs, the more that we can add some humor, the more that we can look for understanding. Those are all things that add positive into an experience. Conflict doesn't feel great, even if it's kind of minor, because it feels like a little bit, not necessarily of a disconnection, but of a rub, right? A little chafing. So appreciation, affection, respect, they start to outweigh these moments of frustration. And that gives you that overall kind of warm emotional climate, even when the difficult conversations happen. So think of for a second, when was the last time you expressed appreciation to your partner? Could be big, could be small, doesn't have to be thank you or I appreciate you. Could just be, hey, you did a really great job with the kids last night, putting them to bed. That's an appreciation as well. So strong relationships aren't built by avoiding disagreement. They're built by staying connected while navigating differences. And the goal isn't perfect harmony. The goal is creating a relationship where both people can feel fully human, fully honest, and still feel securely connected. And we do that with compassion. We do that with curiosity and open-mindedness to truths. So if you can disagree and still protect the relationship, that's often a sign of strength, not weakness. Take care of yourselves and each other.